What is up, guys? We are live. Zach Ginn here. Welcome to the Bag Searchers podcast. I am joined today by Paul Logsdon from Louisville, Kentucky. Paul is out here wholesaling real estate and making over $20,000 to $30,000 every single month in his real estate wholesaling operation. Paul, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, let's get it going, guys. Remember, guys, this is a live podcast, so smash that like button and subscribe. Have a comment for Paul. And what I want from Paul today is I want to unveil his business and see how he's doing so successful and how he can help you guys out in your business. So, Paul, how did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, great question. So, before real estate, I did the whole college route. So I was always pushed to go to college, follow that route, get a career job, and work your life away for 25, 30, 40 years. But once I graduated college, I had a history degree, found out that I didn't really want to do anything with history. So I kind of had like a worthless degree. So nonetheless, got a real world job, didn't like it, ended up finding out that I was trading my life, my hours for dollars, basically selling my life, selling my soul for about $30K a year. That's the salary that I was making. Way less than what I felt that I was entitled to. So after that, I kind of wanted to explore different career paths, got into sales, and that's what got me thinking as an entrepreneur, and eventually read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, wanted to get into real estate. There's only one problem though. I didn't have any money to buy any real estate. So I was just studying. I was studying all kinds of real estate through Bigger Pockets, different podcasts, different books. And eventually one night, one video popped up about wholesaling, and I explored that rabbit hole and started taking action immediately. And that was actually in January of 2020.
Wow. And you ramped up your business considerably from there. So explain your route getting your first deal. Like, how did that work? Because there's so many people right now who haven't got one deal, and they want to know, what is your story getting it?
Yeah, so my first deal, it was kind of crazy, and I really don't recommend anybody do this unless you just really are obsessed and you just want to take action and do something. But I was working a full-time job, and during my lunch breaks or any break that I had, I was driving for dollars. And instead of writing the properties down and skip tracing them and calling them or texting them, I would just sit in front of their house, write them a handwritten letter, and put it on their doorstep. And I did that probably a few hundred, maybe 1,000 times, and somebody called me back. Actually, I got a lot of calls back, but I'll never forget the one person who called me back and actually said that they wanted to sell me their house. I was at Planet Fitness on Saturday morning at like 10 a.m. I was running on the treadmill, and at this point, everything was coming to my personal cell phone. So I was just answering every call that I got. And I answered, he said, "Hey, I got your letter and I want to sell you my house." So after that, set up an appointment to go see the house, figured out what his situation was, like, why did you want to sell it? Kind of just like looked at the house, acted like I knew what I was doing really when it comes to the repairs. And he said he just wanted the mortgage paid off because he was going through a divorce. His ex-wife had moved out, and he was just in this 4-bedroom house by himself, couldn't afford the mortgage payment anymore. It's like, well, I think we can do that. I'm pretty sure we can do that. And I actually knew somebody in my market who was wholesaling. I said, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" And this is what I would call strategic partnerships now. So I was like, "Hey, I got this deal under contract. I don't really know what to do with it. Can you show me how to close it?" And that's what we did. He called over a buyer, walked through, and the buyer said, "Yeah, I'll take it." So we ended up splitting $26,000, 50-50 on my first deal.
Wow. Jeez. And how did you keep building traction from that?
So I pretty much did that 3 times. The whole partnership, the 50-50 JV. And I didn't realize at the time how strategic that was, because what it let me do was find all these deals, get them under contract, and just kind of hand it over to let someone else do the disposition. Because what I found a lot of people will do is they'll get a deal under contract and then they stop the acquisitions process. They start focusing on disposition. And then once you stop marketing, it's like you're putting a pause on your flow. So after that, I just kept rolling and eventually got to the point where I was doing deals on my own. Hired on a virtual assistant as soon as I could, probably after my second or third deal, and just started to scale from there.
Wow. Okay. And eventually, how long did it take you till you got to the point at where you're at now, doing $20,000 to $30,000 a month?
So probably consistently took me about a year to get to this point where I'm consistently, doing 3 to 5 deals a month, making, 20, 30K a month. Wow. Because I was part-time until June of 2020. Wow. June 2020, quit my job and started doing it full-time.
Jeez. Wow. And is this all in Jefferson County that you're like wholesaling?
Yep, that's right. Well, wow. I take that back. I have done a few deals in Southern Indiana. We're right on the border. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So your main market is Louisville for everyone watching this, right?
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So let's break down $30,000 a month. So I'm trying to get as much value as I can for everyone. You're always all over Facebook, social media. You have a great YouTube channel that you're consistently sharing value. Couple things I really appreciate about the social media stuff you do is, first of all, you're real about it. You're not trying to sell anyone anything, and you're just trying to provide value. So that's why we got to have Paul on here. But the one thing I want to ask you really quick is, what is persistence mean to you?
Persistence, man, what a great question. Throw me a softball. Simply, persistence means never quitting. I kind of grew up as the underdog. I played football all my life, but I was never the biggest, never the strongest, never the fastest, could never run the fastest or jump the highest or whatever. But having that grit, that determination, that perseverance to fight through all the adversity that you're going to face in life, whether it's in sports, business, entrepreneurship, relationship, we're all facing some sort of adversity. And I think persistence is the ability to get through that adversity and onto the better side of life.
Definitely. I mean, I can tell you there's so many great wholesalers that did a lot of sports that used the lessons they learned from a young man or woman doing that into the wholesaling business. And I've used it from, I barely did any sports, but in high school, I've used that into my actual wholesaling when I was doing it in high school. So 100% persistence, grit. It's what gets you started from those first couple deals to get that traction going. So it's 100%. I see a bunch of people popping on the comments here. Persistent Paul, about to give us some game. Like these people, you're well known around Facebook and around the industry here of just someone who's actually giving value. So I do appreciate that. So let's try to break down your business now. So I see you're doing some bandit signs, and I did want to ask you that. So are you still doing bandit signs in your wholesaling business right now?
Right now, no.
Okay. And is there a reason why?
The main reason why is because it's very laborious for me, at least, being a solo guy. Also, I haven't personally gotten a great return on that marketing strategy. So I really haven't had a reason to scale it, just because, I don't think I haven't got an ROI on it. Yeah. Okay.
And if you can explain, so for your whole business, let's say for the past month, how many deals did you get? And what was the marketing channels that led to those deals?
Yeah, so the past month, let's take June, for example, closed 3 deals in June. And it was all from, thank you. It was all from cold calling.
Wow.
That's all that I'm doing in my business right now. And if you look at my leads, in my database, they're 99% going to be from cold calling. Went through a phase where I ran Facebook ads, and we test around with a lot of different stuff, but cold calling has for sure been my bread and butter. Yeah.
Wow. Have you messed around with SMS at all?
I did, but I never really caught on to the SMS. Just kind of wasn't really my thing. The main thing I've used SMS for is the text blast buyers list, just to generate buyers leads. But yeah.
So, wow, that's interesting. I mean, cold calling it's bread and butter. It's absolutely amazing. So, how are you cold calling? Obviously, you're a killer on acquisitions. You're a killer doing research. You're very good at what you do. Are you cold calling these leads yourself? Like, how is this cold calling looking like for you?
Yeah, so I haven't cold called myself for quite a while.
Wow.
Because we have I keep saying we, but I have virtual assistants who actually make all the cold calls for me. And over the past year, I've really played around with what's the best system and best script and best dialer and all that stuff for cold calling. And, is it better to manage your virtual assistant by yourself? Better to outsource it with like a management company? So what I found is there's a healthy medium where you can actually outsource it and pay them about the same amount of money, and it's completely hands off. But you're providing the dialer and whatnot, and you're still holding them to a certain standard. For example, let's say you want to have a virtual assistant managed by somebody else, but you still want to be able to manage the script, and you still want to listen to the calls and check for quality. That's what I found that I like in my business. So right now we have 2 virtual assistants who are using Mojo Dialer, simply because I think Mojo Dialer has the best quality when it comes down to everything. The first 3 seconds of the call are what matters the most. And from every other dialer that I've used, there's always a delay. And that's just absolutely killed me. But with Mojo, I feel like you get that 3 second, it's like a 3 second edge, to where you can hear the person on the other side say hello. And it just is much quicker response time.
Wow. I mean, trust me, I've used Mojo. I've used them all. But I've had experience with Mojo, especially when I started out in college. Like, that was all I used. It was great. So are you using 3 lines with that?
Yep.
All right. Wow. Okay. So if you can break down for me, so you got your VA, they're cold calling first 3 seconds. What are the first 3 seconds of that call looking like with your VA?
So they start out, they're saying, hey, let's say, hey, John, this is Paul. I was calling about your house on Main Street. Just wanted to see if you were interested in selling it. So I like to, get straight to the point, leave out the fluff. Hey, John, this is Paul. I was just calling to see if you're still if you're interested in selling your house on Main Street. After that, you're getting a yes or no, and then you can kind of qualify them further.
I mean, anyone who's watched a lot of my content on cold calling knows I keep it simple. Like, you cannot make it complicated. I think, especially in today's day and age, if you can just be lucky for someone to like answer that phone, you gotta go straight to the point. And that's amazing. So you have your VAs doing that. So how many hours a day are they calling? How many leads? What are the lists looking like? What's all this cold calling marketing looking like?
Yeah, so each virtual assistant's calling for 8 hours a day. So both of them combined, it's 16 hours a day for each one, 40 hours a week, and they're held to a standard where I need a minimum of 3 leads per day.
Wow.
And that definitely varies on the list and how many times the list has been called, the data. But for the most part, they don't have a problem exceeding that goal. And when I say a lead, I mean anybody that wants an offer, anybody that's interested in talking to us, we want to talk to them.
Wow. I mean, as you know from cold calling, I don't have to tell you in this business, there's a very small amount of people on a list that are actually looking to sell their property. So that's amazing. You're getting what, 6 leads a day?
Yeah, roughly.
Wow,
Yep.
that's impressive there. So, and what is their pay structure looking like?
So we pay $6 an hour,
Okay.
and that includes the management of the virtual assistant and everything. I'm not actually sure how much really goes to the virtual assistant, but the hourly rate that I'm paying is $6 an hour, and then I'm providing the dialer and whatnot. We are offering a bonus of $50 per closed deal that would go straight to the virtual assistant themselves.
Wow, that's going to be motivating for them. So, you're providing all this with them. Is there any training you're doing with them? You said it includes the management. So, do you have like a company managing these VAs for you?
Yeah. It's a company. They're based out of Nicaragua, and they really take care of all the training as well. Like before I signed up with the virtual assistants, they were working for other investors, so it's not like it's a fresh virtual assistant who's never touched the phones, but they are put through John Martinez's sales training.
Yeah.
So that's kind of their background.
Okay. And would you mind giving what company this is?
Yeah, it's her name's Ellie. It's not like a branded company, so to say.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can definitely put anybody who's interested in touch. I'm not really affiliated or anything, but it's definitely been a game changer for me.
Awesome. So they're calling 8 hours a day. They're getting the leads. So they're kind of training that cold calling script wise. But let's say, they're calling 8 hours a day. Was it every 2 hours they'll get a yes, hopefully, to get through the 3 leads a day. So let's say they magically get the yes. What's that VA trained to do after that?
So they're going to let the seller know that, hey, within the next 24 hours, you're going to get a call back with an offer. So so then it gets submitted into the CRM. It's integrated with Mojo to where, if they just select a certain group, it pops up into my CRM.
Awesome. And what CRM are you using?
It's going to be kind of weird. I'm using Salesforce right now. It's something that I've just switched to.
Not bad.
But in the past, I've used Podio. Podio's done the job for me, but I wanted something more complete.
Wow. Okay. And from there, the lead gets put in Salesforce, put in the CRM there. And who's dealing with the acquisitions on there, calling, making the offers?
That's me. That's me right now. So and this is where I'm at in my business as far as trying to delegate. I had a lead manager position where they would actually give the leads a call back, qualify them further, and try to set an appointment for me. My business model is very face-to-face. I actually prefer to be in front of people. I feel like I do have an edge over everybody else who's virtual. I'm sorry. But if you're virtual in Louisville, we can do some deals.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. But so whenever a lead comes in, my CRM, I'm calling them back and I'm saying, hey, my assistant called yesterday and just wanted to follow up, get some more details from you and see if it's something that, would be a good fit.
Okay. And do you grow up in Louisville?
Yep. Born and raised here.
I mean, I get anyone virtually. If I personally try to go virtual in your market and I'm trying to go against you and you got Paul, who's born and raised in Louisville, local there, be in person. I'm telling you guys, that's why I do so well in my personal, in my physical market. I do the same thing. That's why I wanted you on here, because you're doing what I'm doing in Louisville. And it's our acquisitions people are born, they're local, they're in person. Stupid question, but have you seen a big increase in your closing rate doing it in person over the phone?
I've never really tried to do solely over the phone. I've always been in person, so I can't really say. But yeah, I would say, I could do it over the phone, but here in Kentucky, there is a lot of people who just want to see that you're a real person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. And are you giving the offers over the phone, or are you trying to get the appointment and do the offer?
A little bit of both, kind of like a hybrid. If I don't want to waste my time on an appointment, but I'd rather go on an appointment and waste my time than not go.
Yeah.
So we try to get them qualified with like a price range to make sure we're at least in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Or if they just have a phenomenal asking price right off the bat, then, hey, that's great. We're still going to try to get it lower. But we try to do all the nitty gritty wheeling and dealing in person.
Wow. I agree with you 100% there. The one thing everyone's going to kill me if I don't ask you is, I personally know this just with my experience in wholesaling. I'll know if it's a decent deal or I should go on the appointment or not. How can you best explain? It's hard to explain because you've done enough deals where you know if something's going to be good or bad, but how can you best explain if a lead's going to be a waste of time going in the appointment or not?
Yeah, great question. So Brent Daniels teaches this, and I haven't paid for any Brent Daniels mentorship. Is all from his free YouTube videos, but the 4 pillars, right, of motivation. So you want to qualify them based on their price, the condition of the problem or condition of the property, their timeline to sell, and the reason why they want to sell. If they only have one of those pillars, then it's probably not going to be worth an appointment. Or if they just want an offer just because you called kind of deal, it's not going to be worth an appointment. Typically, I look for the asking price to at least somewhere under market value, and some kind of repairs needed. If you got to be solving a problem. So I'd say the best way to determine between the two, someone who's motivated, worth an appointment, someone who's not motivated, going to waste your time, is to go on all the appointments at first. Because you have to learn what does it sound like when someone's motivated? And then what does it sound like when someone's just wasting your time? You'll start to pick up on that.
Definitely. I mean, those four pillars, I mean, Rick's been preaching that for decades. Everyone's been using those 4 pillars forever. So it's absolutely amazing. So that's the same one we use in our business. I mean, the old, I think Preston Ely talked about like these guys, those 4 pillars are tried and true. So 100% there. So let's talk about acquisitions now. This is one where I think it's really cool. Obviously, you coming from newer in the sales game, like you haven't been in sales for 20, 30 years. You're very good talking with sellers over the phone. You're very comfortable talking in general to sellers. What are some tips you can give to anyone out there who's kind of nervous talking to a seller, getting in there, getting in the trenches, getting dirty, and trying to go on appointments?
Yeah, I would say the best way to learn is to do it and take action and fail and be persistent enough to pick yourself back up and dust yourself off and give it another shot. But in terms of eliminating the nervousness or fear, you just got to do it, man. And think about it like if you're cold calling somebody or you're talking to somebody on the phone, you're following up, whatever, they don't know who you are. No one else knows who you are. So if they say no or they curse you out or whatever happens, no one's ever going to know. After you hang up the phone, the deal is done and it's you forget about it. It's in the past. Other than that, I would say be confident. You don't have to know everything, and slow down. Just have a slow pace and listen more than you speak. Yes. I'd say that's probably my best piece of advice is just listen. Just listen.
Well, to piggyback on that, I mean, it's so important to me. Active listening is way better. That's why I think introverts are actually sometimes better acquisitions people than extroverts sometimes. The importance I found out with listening is asking the right questions to get them to talk. So, Paul, what are the right questions to ask your sellers for them to talk so you can go out there and then listen?
Yeah, well, I'll give you 2 of my favorite questions.
All right.
Number 1, after, let's say I'm doing a follow-up and they've told me kind of like the condition of the property or a little bit of the backstory, I'll just hit them with, it sounds like a great property. What makes you want to sell it? And then usually after that, the floodgates open and they'll reveal their why. And that'll tell you usually if they're motivated or not. My second favorite question, kind of to piggyback off of that, is, hey, if we can come to a number that works for both of us, how soon would you be looking to sell it? And those two questions, something about them and something about the way you deliver them in your own tone of voice and your own, rephrase them in your own way, the seller ends up talking your ear off usually. And once someone tells you their life story, there's like an instant connection, even if you don't say anything.
It's one of those hidden things about building rapport that no one talks about. It's building rapport by not even saying a word. And that's huge. Body language, everything like that. I mean, it's absolutely essential. So when you do have to talk, what are some other things you'll say to build that rapport so that offer goes down a lot smoother?
Yeah. So, just talking about past deals that we've done, saying I do have a website to build credibility. So if they're skeptical because they've been getting a lot of calls, a lot of text, and they're just, they're kind of like freaked out. They think their property is worth $1 million or something. I can direct them to my website and say, you can check us out. You can look at our reviews. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, it's Logsdon home buyers, right?
Yeah. I don't want to put my domain out there because I track my clicks and stuff. But that's what it is.
Yeah.
That is what it is. And typically when someone goes and views our website, they're pretty confident that they want to work with us.
The reason I bring that up is I looked you because I did research for the show, and I'm like, your SEO is amazing. That website is like, whoa. So have you seen from doing that, putting information about you out there, having your face out there online, has that helped with your credibility at all in Louisville?
It certainly has, as far as the website goes. But as far as like the TikToks and the Facebook stuff, the YouTubes, I haven't really noticed anything on the seller side. But as far as like market authority and helping newer wholesalers out, definitely have seen a great impact on that. Like we've done a deal from TikTok with somebody. I did a first deal with somebody from TikTok in my market, and it's actually really cool. Really cool.
Well, talk about, first of all, what is your TikTok so everyone can go follow you on there?
Yeah, TikTok is at persistent_Paul. And I try to just post like a bunch of day in the life content on there. But yeah, this guy, his name is Kevin Kane. He's actually a rock star in like a band that tours nationally.
Wow.
Actually, he tours worldwide. He's in a heavy metal band. He plays the drums, and he reached out to me and just kind of asked like what I did based on my TikToks. So I invited him over to the office, sat down and talked. 2 days later, he was just having a conversation with somebody on the street, and they said they needed to sell their house. And he called me back, and we got the deal done.
Wow. Whew. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's nuts. So I mean, JVing it's huge. So just the last question on the acquisitions process is: you got someone looking to sell. What's that final push on giving the offer? What are you saying to the seller exactly? And how do you put pen to paper?
Yeah. So if it's like a lay down seller, that's just a no brainer, work out a price, sign here and here. But if they're maybe like a little bit of a more difficult seller and maybe they have other bids or something like that, basically, I think it starts with a mentality that if I'm coming to your house, I'm coming to buy it, and I'm not walking away with a contract unsigned. I'm not walking away empty-handed. You're not allowed to think about it. If you need to talk to your wife, hey, can you give her a call right now? And I've actually, we closed on a deal on Tuesday, and that was the exact scenario. It was an out-of-state seller. He was living in North Carolina, and he was only in Louisville for about 4 days, and his wife was back in North Carolina. And I went to the appointment, and he said, man, if you could do 140, I can call my wife, and we might be able to do that. I had to talk to my wife. And I said, okay, well, I'll step outside. You can call your wife, and we can see what we can do. So I think just being almost a little bit pushy, or not pushy, just direct about what your intentions are, and having that confidence will just shine through during the appointment. Aside from that, if I know that it's a really competitive deal and the seller wants to get other bids or other offers, I'll just say, hey, what gets the deal done for you today? What's it going to take to get the deal done today? And usually that will secure a contract for you. But only do that if it's a good deal. Like, don't lock up a bad deal. You have to be ethical for sure.
I mean, 100% there. The biggest takeaway I want to repeat one more time you said was the seller doesn't walk away without a contract, or they have to quote unquote think about it. That has saved me so many deals. It is 100% a huge nugget, guys. Write that down because it will save you so much. I remember I had a deal where I had the same situation, and the husband and wife were there, and they're like, "Oh, we'll think about it tomorrow." I'm like, "Well, let me step outside real quick, have you guys talk, come back." Got the deal.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
It's very important, especially now, because in Louisville, there's a lot of competition still, and stuff like that will help. So when it comes to competition, how do you deal with competition in your market? I mean, do you consider your market saturated at all?
Not saturated. It's competitive. I'd say it's competitive. There's a lot of wholesalers. There's a lot of people trying to do virtual wholesaling here. But I overlook the competitiveness or the saturation because there's such an abundance of opportunity out there in any market. Instead of focusing on what there isn't, having the scarcity mindset, I look at it like glass half full. Kind of outlook. So that's really what I look at, or how I look at it. But aside from that, on the flip side, it is competitive, and you have to be fast. So I'd say that's my number one piece of advice. If you're in a competitive market, be fast and then move with a sense of urgency, because if you're not there to follow up, somebody else will.
Definitely. It's some heavy stuff right there. You did say that, you think you can beat any other virtual guy out there, guy or gal. You said that with a lot of confidence. What are the things that you think that you do better than other people in your market? Like, there's probably people watching this from Louisville watching this. Like, why can't I get 30,000? Why are you closing people over them? What gives you that edge?
I'm actually listening to people and solving their problems. Too many people make it about numbers instead of solving the problems. So I think that's the number one thing that makes me better is I can actually sniff out the actual problem and solve it for the seller.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, let's talk about a problem. So what is the craziest real estate wholesaling story you have over the past almost 18 months of wholesaling real estate?
So I'll tell you about one that we couldn't close.
Okay.
Because it's honestly the craziest deal that I've had. We've had deals with squatters and stuff like that. I've had a deal where the city, the day before closing, the city demolished the building. But the absolute craziest one was a deal probably back last summer, and we had it under contract for about $15,000, I want to say, with the seller, and had it assigned to a buyer for about $18,000. During the closing process, I was fairly new, and I let the buyer use his own title company. Title company comes back and says, "Hey, there's too many title issues. We can't close it because it's going to be too labor intensive." I was like, "Oh, well, great. I guess now I'm looking for a new buyer." So I found another buyer who actually was paying more. They were actually going to pay somewhere closer. I think it was like $21K. So I was going to make a higher profit, but then I had to deal with the title issues. We had to get those sorted out, which ended up being some problems with an inheritance. So the correct paperwork wasn't signed because the property was inherited by the seller, but he also had two brothers and sisters who also inherited the property, and trying to communicate that to the seller who thinks they own 100%, that, hey, you only own 30% of this property, you can't really sell it. So we're trying to get all the rest of the family on board. Of course, they all hate each other because the brother's been getting all this money the whole time, and they haven't had their fair share. Anyway, month goes by of trying to sort everything out. I put together the whole family tree, got everybody on board. Everybody's going to be happy. They're going to get like $100 or something from the sale. The seller died.
Oh my gosh.
The seller died shortly after that. And then that one, it fell into pieces after that. Yeah.
Ooh,
so that's probably the craziest thing. I always wondered what would happen if you had a seller die while you had a property under contract. And in that case, the deal fell through.
Wow. We've only dealt with one seller dying on us, and affidavits, everything we're protected, but Florida's a little different. But wow, jeez, woo, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a wild one. But you live and you learn.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. On a better note, what is the biggest real estate deal you've ever done?
50K right now.
Wow.
Is the record. But I'm working on one that I can't really talk about. That's gonna hopefully destroy that one. But yeah, that was a fourplex in a great part of town. Seller was in pre-foreclosure, and there was nothing terribly wrong with the building. It was just under rented, and just got a really great deal on it and sold it for a really great price. Made 50K.
Wow. And is there any tips you can give on wholesaling a fourplex versus a single family house?
Yeah, I would say coordinate with the tenants. Try to get the tenants' contact information, so whenever you're showing your buyers, you can say, hey, you can let the tenants know, hey, we're going to be coming through at this time on this day. Can you please be home so we can just come in and out real quick? That's a big tip there.
And are you telling these tenants that, hey, I'm buying your house and potentially kicking you out? Like, what's kind of the language you're using for tenants? Because it's a thin line, right?
Yeah. So it depends on what the seller wants to say. If the seller is okay with letting the tenants know that, hey, I'm selling the property, then yeah, that's what we'll say is, hey, I'm potentially buying the property, and I need to get my partner in to see the condition of the house. Also, we're using that kind of as like an opportunity for them to let us know anything that's wrong with the house. Say, hey, you'll be able to let us know any problems you have, and hopefully we can fix it. But as far as answering their questions, am I going to be able to stay in the property? Are you going to raise the rent, or what's going to happen? I just leave that very open-ended, because at the end of the day, I have no clue. So I leave that very open-ended.
Wow. Okay. And the last thing on the fourplex there, how are you finding comps on these multifamily deals where there's a lot less comps out there?
Yeah. So if there's no comps, like just absolutely no fourplex comps, that really, really sucks. And what I would do is take that to a realtor and get a realtor's opinion, because or someone in the market that has that sort of like market expertise. Because usually if you're looking at it by zip codes, someone will be able to give you like a price per unit in particular zip codes. At least that's how it is in my market. But so far I've wholesaled, I believe it's 2 fourplexes so far. They've all had really great comps. So that's been really good.
Awesome. And last thing we could talk about here is selling your deals, because you're really good at selling your deals. I mean, your $50,000 deals you're doing, you're finding cash buyers really well. How are you finding your cash buyers?
Yeah, so I'm big on relationships. So I don't have a huge buyers list. And that was actually probably my weakest part of my business whenever I first started, because that's why I had to JV with other wholesalers. And I realized that was actually kind of killing me in a way. And the way I look at it, the easiest way to double my revenue in my company at the time was to take over disposition myself. So I really focused on that. I think Facebook groups are a great place to scrape buyers' email addresses. And then, I mean, you can't go wrong with pulling a cash buyers list from PropStream, filtering it by, buyers who own more than 10 properties, and just trying to reach out to them. Other than that, my most favorite way is just face-to-face, having a conversation, shaking hands, and catering to the buyer. I've gotten to the point where a lot of my buyers are repeat customers. They like me because they know that I'm going to treat them right. I'm going to work my butt off. And I like them because I trust them. I know they're going to shoot me straight. I know they're going to close on the deal.
Wow. That's great. Is there any tips you can give for vetting the right cash buyers?
Yeah, I would say look at it. If you live in a market where, I guess everything's public record, go in and see what they own. See what kind of properties they own. See what kind of transactions they've done. I don't know if every market has a place to access that information, but I know here in my market, you can go online to the county deeds, land records, and see, look people up by their LLC, look them up by their personal name, trust whatever they do business in, and see what their history is. Or just ask them, say, hey, tell me about your last deal. What's your dream deal look like? What kind of deals will you not buy? Stuff like that.
Wow. Awesome. So let's get some questions from the audience here and see how Paul can help these people out. And comment below anything you have for Paul. It's rare to get a guy like out here that actually will give you the information and do it no strings attached. So I appreciate you doing that. Again, guys, when I'm getting these questions going, check out Paul on YouTube. If I go on YouTube and search, what should I search on YouTube?
Just my name, Paul Logsdon. And yeah, that's me.
Sweet. I love it. You're in the trenches on some of those videos. I love it. Let's see here. All right. Happy to be here. What's up? What's up, guys? Let's see. Miracle K says, hey, where my boy Jack Harlow from?
He is from the city. He is from Louisville. Yeah. What a great guy.
Paul is a superhuman for sure. Angelo says, my bro, hashtag PTR fam. Jason asks here, hey, Paul, what CRM do you like?
So great question. What I'm using right now is by far my favorite. I think it's the best of the best, the cream of the crop, but you don't need that when you're first getting started. What I'm using right now is it's a version of Salesforce. It is expensive to get started, and you don't need that unless you're really planning on scaling with teams. So I would say the best CRM for just getting started is definitely Podio. And there's multiple different build outs of Podio. I would say if you're not going to use any sort of automation in your CRM, just use the free Podio. You can sign up for an account on Podio.com and then go to their app store, and there's a pack. There's a CRM in there. It's called like the Real Estate Investors Pack or CRM. Download it, and that's what I used in my business for the longest time. Because really, you just need something to take notes in and keep all your leads in a centralized location. So Podio for sure if you're just getting started.
Awesome. Facebook user says, someone in the Facebook group, my guy Paul did a random deal with him. Crazy story.
That's awesome. I don't know who it is. I probably have an idea of who it is. But yeah, I love JV deals, man.
All right, sweet. Let's see. Bonds asked a really good question here. How do you explain assignments to your sellers when they ask? Assignments make escrow transparent, and not sure how to handle that conversation.
Yeah, I've never had anyone ask, to be honest with you. I've never had that come up. But what I do is say that I work with partners. So whenever I'm showing a property to a buyer, typically here's how it works in my business. I go on the initial appointment, get the contract signed. At the appointment, I schedule a time to come back to the property so my partners can see it. And that's the inspection period. That's the inspection. Just going to come back just so my partners can see it, and then we'll be good to go. So yeah, I mean, honestly, my title company is they're amazing. They're the best of the best. So I've never had that problem. I've never had a seller see my assignment fee. Hypothetically, if they did, I would just be honest and transparent with them and say, hey, I decided to pass this over to my partner, and he's paying me a fee.
Awesome. Let's see here. Congrats, Paul, from Louisville. Abdul says preach. PTR. What does PTR stand for?
Yeah, so that's my mantra. That's my life motto. It's persistence through resistance. So basically, I believe that we all face adversity. We all face some sort of resistance in life. But if you can remain persistent and get through the resistance, through the adversity that you're facing, on the other side of that is the best version of yourself. So that's my mantra that I live by.
I love it. That's awesome. Terrell says, "What's up? What's up?" We got the fire emojis. Let's get it going. Let's see. Awesome. Lulu asks, how often you refresh your list? When you refresh your list, do you trash the original list when originally cold calling?
Great question. So we never trash any original list. And I'm not a big data management freak, but I do have a place that I store my data. As far as reskipping it, we reskip our data probably about once a year. And the reason why is because when I first started, it's not like I just pulled all kinds of lists at the same time. I didn't pull all this data. What I did was, okay, this month I'm going to focus on pre-foreclosures. Next month, I'm going to focus on code violations, tax delinquent, and so on and so forth, right? After I had collected all that data, eventually it does change and people move and houses get sold. So we try to re-pull that data and recall that niche data is what we call it, the niche list, about once a year. But for the most part, yeah.
Awesome. NCal says, great guest, Zach. Very transparent, down to earth, excellent mindset, motivates everyone. Can someone post his TikTok contact info? So, Paul, if you could do me a favor at the end of this video on your YouTube, if you can comment below on the channel here, your information so everyone can get in contact with you, that'd be great. Because
for sure, people
like this saying this bleep is gold.
Awesome. That's what I'm here for, just to provide value. Because I had a lot of people who really helped me out in this business, and I feel like I owe it to everybody. So yeah.
Awesome. Sean wants to know, show the VA contact. I would get in contact with you on that. Steve says, do you estimate repairs or just go by sold comps for offers?
So a little bit of both. We definitely look at the sold comps. I know some people look at the sold like as is comps. The only problem that I have with that methodology is you can't see the actual condition of that property. And also with the as is sold comps, you can't see assignment fees. So take that with a grain of salt. But as far as estimating repairs, yes, I have in my mind, kind of like a formula, not really a formula, but a list of things that I follow as far as what things would cost. But I never disclose that to the buyers because everyone is subject to their own rehab cost. But, whenever I walk into a house, I'm thinking for every bathroom, if it needs a new bathroom, it's probably going to be like $3 to $5K. Kitchen's going to be probably $5K. Roof, you're looking at probably $4 to $5K. That's pretty much how I look at it. I just look at the big ticket stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Travis says, how much time does it take to close a deal, from finding a deal to close?
Yeah. So typically my contracts, we just do a 30-day contract. And there is a clause in my contract that says if we need an extension in order to secure financing or to clear title, that the seller will grant a reasonable extension. And sometimes we need to use those extensions. I think the longest deal that I've ever had go on was probably like 4 months. It took 4 months to close, just with all the issues going on. But typically, I'd say 30 to 45 days is really average in my business.
Wow. Awesome. Miracle K asked a great question. This is really interesting. A lot of people have been asking this a lot. How are you coming up with like your MAOs? So are you using the 70% ARV repairs? Like, how are you calculating that?
Yeah, so I definitely use PropStream. I love PropStream to look at the comps. And usually I'm looking at the MLS comps. And as far as the like wholesale formula, the ARV 70%, I think that only works for like a fix and flip deal.
Yeah.
So before I analyze a property, based on like a wholesale formula, I look at it through the eyes of a buyer, and I'm saying, is this going to be for a buy and hold investor, or is this going to be for a fix and flipper? And then I'll kind of like reverse engineer my buyer's criteria to fit that deal, because I do have some buyers who are fine with taking on a light cosmetic flip and making $20,000 in a few months. So if you look at it like that, you can't really put that in the 70% formula.
Yeah.
And then also, I work with other buyers who are fine with paying 90% of ARV. So I think you really have to know what your buyers are looking for, and then reverse engineer it, kind of like reverse wholesale it. So I guess to answer the question, yes, I use a 70% minus repairs, minus fee to get a ballpark. But I like to say it's more of an art than it is a science.
Definitely. I have some buyers at 90% too. It varies. Jamarcus says, my guy, persistent Paul. Man, everyone on the YouTube channel here, they are big fans of you. It's awesome. It's glad to see. I know it'd be great. Let's see. Miracle K asks, when you're approaching the seller, do you go by saying you're buying the property yourself, or that you work with partners or investors?
I say I work with partners. Definitely I work with partners. We're buying the house, but I just have to show my partner. So that's really the extent of it,
Awesome. Ghost Black Project asks a couple questions here. Do you recommend buying a cash buyers list? And I have a couple properties under contract. Any tips how to schedule cash buyers inspections and wholesaling virtually?
Yeah, so great question. I do know some people who have bought cash buyers list, and they, like Realtors List, or there's a few other websites where you can buy cash buyer data. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's great. It's like a shortcut, And as far as your properties under contract, how to schedule inspections virtually, I would say you probably, if you don't already have a solid team or solid boots on the ground, that would be my first step. But that's not something that I do. But if I did, I would definitely be working with some boots on the ground, somebody that you can trust, or partner with another wholesaler.
Definitely. great question here. What are your goals for the future?
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you asked. So I want to be at a point in my wholesale business where I'm making $100,000 a month consistently. I want time freedom. I want the ability to impact people's lives, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually. And I have a huge goal where I want to change the way that people sell their houses. I can see what's happening in the marketplace. And I think there's going to be a huge shift. And now more than ever, we're living in a golden era of the internet where literally anything is possible. And yeah, so that's kind of my goal, is to change the way that people sell their houses to investors.
And how would you do that?
I'm going to make an app, and it's going to be bigger than Zillow.
All right, let's do it. I don't want to break down too much of it because I don't want anyone to steal your idea. But
yeah, I don't have the answers either.
That's good. We're gonna keep it on the DL, but definitely check that out. I'm excited. I'll be one of your first users. Do you prefer assignments or double closes?
Depends on. Thank you. I appreciate that, Bonza. It depends on the deal. It depends on the buyer. Double closes are always really awesome for getting a great testimonial, if you want to share that on social media. But honestly, I prefer assignments because it's just a lot cleaner. Your name or your LLC is not going on the chain of title. You're pretty much like a ghost. Yeah. And it's more favorable, in my opinion, when it comes to taxes. Also, you're not paying like extra closing costs.
Definitely. Last question for the day here from the audience is, what book do you guys recommend for self-growth and development? You guys are awesome. Thanks for giving back.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, man, you go first.
Yeah, so my favorite book of all time, Think and Grow Rich. I carry a copy of it with me everywhere I go. It's always in my backpack. Matter of fact, like, this is the copy that I have right now. It's pretty beat up. Like, it doesn't have a cover. But it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I would go on to say that it's like the #1 best-selling book of all time. I don't have any data to prove that, but I do believe it.
It's great. I mean, it's that in the Bible, pretty much. 2 books.
Yeah,
I've read that. I've read that so many times. So it's a great one. So yeah, that's great. Napoleon Hill's amazing. I listen to him. Unleash the Power Within is a great one. But they're all amazing. So that's awesome here. But let's see here. So the last question here is for me. So this is the Bags Riches podcast. So I started 17 as a bag boy. Got into wholesaling with $300 in my bank account. So if you were back at 17, 18 years old with $300 in your bank account, what would you do to become the next Paul Logsdon?
Oh, wow. That's an amazing question. So I have $300. What would I do to get where I am today?
That's it. You're at 18 years old. What would you do?
I would start wholesaling, and I would immediately start hanging around people who are where I want to be. But on a more technical level, I would download a Driving for Dollars app, whether it's Deal Machine or batch driven. Doesn't really matter. It'll probably cost you like $50 a month. And I would go driving for dollars every chance you had. You're driving to go get dinner, lunch, dinner, like you're pinning properties. I would pin 1,000 Driving for Dollars properties as soon as possible.
Yes.
Skip trace them and cold call them. At that point, you don't even need a dialer to cold call. If you have a cell phone, all you have to do is punch in a few numbers with your finger, and it works just the same. And with the quality of your Driving for Dollars list, just the nature of a D4D list, you're going to get a deal. That's what I would do. So 1,000, I don't know if that's under $300 or not, but I think it is. 1,000 times 0.15. Yeah. So if you skip trace 1,000 records at 15 cents per record, which is probably pretty average. It's $150 plus your deal machine or batch driven. That's $200, and do that as fast as possible.
Awesome. But that's it. Jonathan wants to know, where are the Lamborghinis and Rolexes?
I'm not there yet, brother. I'm not there yet.
I love it. I love it.
I want my assets to pay for my liabilities.
That's it. I think it's really important to talk about that. Like, you're having very successful, but you keep it humble. You keep going. You're persistent with the action. Paul, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have any parting thoughts for the audience before we hop off here?
Yeah, I would just like to give a huge shout out to all the superhumans. They've been instrumental in any kind of success that I've had. Aaron Bevins with the Superhuman Wholesalers group on Facebook, being in a environment, in a community that wants to see you win and that gives so freely has been instrumental in my success. So shout out to them, and then never quit. Take action, never quit. This business is, it might seem easy, it might look simple from the outside looking in, but when you're really doing this business, you're going to get some gut punches. It's just a matter of time. But the key is to keep rolling with the punches. Deals are going to fall through. They're going to explode in your face. But as long as you keep going, eventually you'll start closing them consistently, and the rest will be history.
That's it. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it, Paul. Thank you so much.